Men of Reddit, in what ways have you experienced sexism? At my sister's house with my then 14-year-old son. He's a good-looking, tall, handsome young man. Bunch of my sister's 40-something female friends start on about how sexy he is, whistling and making comments. He was visibly uncomfortable, so I asked them to stop and got all kinds of crap. I said, can you imagine the hell that would come down if a room full of 40-year-old men were going on about a 14-year-old girl? Disgusting behavior. Not me, but my dad had an extremely hard time getting full custody of me and my little sister, despite my mom having no place to live, no job, addicted to drugs, and abused us. All because kids need a mom. Same happened with my family. Mom was a narcissistic, abusive addict. Court still followed the tender years doctrine at that time, and so despite my dad's claims, the court did not investigate if she was a fit parent, and of course she was manipulating the situation. Took a few years, but Dad never stopped fighting for us. Finally, one of the neighbors noticed that us kids were out and about, but Mom was nowhere to be seen for hours. She found my mom passed out at home, from God knows what, and contacted my dad. She testified to Children's Services, and the courts finally decided that there was enough extraneous circumstances to overturn the doctrine and grant Dad full custody. Both my sibling and I have suffered a long history of mental illness, stemming from these years of abuse and neglect. All because my abuser was a woman and not a man. A former female co-worker would oftentimes sit around talking about guys she had fucked, and once showed me a dick pic that some guy sent her. She thought it was funny. I went to my supervisor and told her it made me uncomfortable and it felt really inappropriate. She basically told me to just ignore her. A couple months later I was fired because that same co-worker accused me of some sort of harassment. I did absolutely nothing to her and they wouldn't tell me what she said I had done. My girlfriend, at the time, repeatedly hit me, scratched me, ripped my shirt, and ripped the rear view mirror off my car while I was driving. I drove her to her mother's while this was happening. When we got there, she refused to get out. Me and her younger sister, who came out after we got there, both had to physically pull her out of the car. She kept trying to get back in. I finally got her out and locked the doors and drove away. When I got on the highway, 3 Colombian pesos cars were waiting for me. They charged me with assault, despite the fact that I was visibly battered with red marks, scratches and a ripped shirt, and the inside of my car was trashed. Their justification: her face was red. Yeah, her face was red. She was having a mental breakdown and crying non-stop because I told her I was leaving her. $700 lost because they towed my car. I was also in the middle of applying for RCMP training at this time, had nearly aced the aptitude test, but couldn't continue because of the pending charge. I also missed out on another job that I knew I was going to get when the criminal record check came back with the dismissed assault charge. TLDR, girlfriend beat me up, I got charged with assault, lost $700 and missed out on 2 career opportunities. LPT, in Canada, if you're charged with something, even if it's dismissed or dropped and you're not convicted, the charge will still show up on a deep criminal background check. After a certain period, I think 6 months, you can call the courthouse and tell them you want your record purged to remove these charges for free. Edit. For clarification on how this is sexist, my girlfriend didn't press charges, the police did. Someone in the car behind us saw a struggle and phoned it in. Had a friend with a very similar story. Long story short, his girlfriend cheated on him at a party he was at. Some random guys told him about it and even her female friends admitted it. He couldn't leave her at the party because she was an hour from home, so he gave her a ride. He was 20, she was 17, he was worried about getting an endangering a minor charge for leaving her there. Halfway through the ride she started kicking and punching him while he was driving. She wanted him to let her out in the middle of nowhere New England in sub-zero temperatures. He refused to let her out until he dropped her off safe at home. He came to my house the next morning covered in bruises and scratch marks. She had no marks and he was covered. I had to turn him in to the police, where even the cop was like, "Sorry, I'm just doing my job." He ended up all right. The judge had to convict him of entrapment by law, because he wouldn't let her out, but told him it would have been a felony for endangering a minor if he had let her out of his car in the middle of nowhere. He ended up taking some classes he didn't need, paying some fines, and getting a misdemeanor, being assaulted and laughed at. Time to tell my story. I'm 6 feet 4 inches, 240 pounds, and used to work as a bouncer. I tried my best not to be aggressive or anything because I know sometimes alcohol leads people into making stupid decisions. So I'd always approach everyone in a very polite, non-threatening way. Usually that worked because it used to de-escalate things and all. One night, this group of girls were starting to create trouble at the club I used to work. When I came to know what was going on and possibly calm things down like I'd always do, one small intoxicated girl jumped me. She was insane. Screaming, cussing, being loud and racist. I'm Latino, she was white. I tried to calm her down, but since that wasn't working, I told her I was gonna escort her out. I reached for my radio and called for backup. She was with a big group, 7 to 10 girls. Out of nowhere, she started to berate me, trying to scratch my eyes, slashing my neck in the process, trying to kick me in the groin and shit. Other bouncers came and took her off of me. Manager finally showed up. Police was called. When they arrived and collect statements, I came over to them saying I wanted to press changes due to the fact I was bleeding profusely in the neck and hands. They laughed at me, said they won't waste their time, nothing will come out of it. The girls were let go by the pockets and went their way laughing at me. I went over to my manager, complaining he was supposed to help us or something. His response? Man up, clean myself up and get back to work. I did clean myself up, patched my injuries and quit on the spot. Fuck him. And fuck those cops as well. Edit. Holy shit, this blew up. Thank for you kind words, strangers. Edit 2, just to clarify, as a bouncer, the best thing you can do is calm everybody down. Instead of being aggressive and turning a bad situation into a fucked up one, it's best to talk, calm everybody so everybody can enjoy their night. Slight sexism usually gives me a good chuckle. People can't accept the fact that I'm the primary caregiver for our son. Examples. At his pediatrician's office for a checkup. You probably have to ask your wife, but do you know if he can jump stack 4 blocks, etc. They will also never call me to confirm appointments or for follow-up calls. They always call my wife's number and leave a voicemail despite us asking several times to contact me first. When out and about with my son. Out with dad today, huh, that's fun, good luck dad. Edit. Cool mom cliques can also be a problem. Not usually overly welcoming, but the worst is passively throwing shade toward my wife. Your wife makes you stay home, huh? Or your wife decided she would rather work than stay home. Edit to my first silver, thanks so much kind person, been there. We had an appointment about one of the kids once. We were coming from 2 different places, so we met at the appointment and my wife was running late by 5 minutes or so. So it's me and the kids and the lady we are meeting, and I tell her my wife will join us in just a few minutes. This lady isn't annoyed, but is all, oh well, okay, maybe we should wait for mom, but we have this form that needs to get filled out. Do you think maybe you could at least get it started and mom can fill in what you don't know? So I said okay and take it to fill out. Sometimes I've seen forms that have definite mom things like the exact date of your last period before you got pregnant or whatever. The form wanted our address, contact info, pediatrician, the kid's birth date and social security number. Maybe our insurance carrier. That's it? I'm the dad, so you think I don't know my own kid's birthday? Why would being mom make my wife any less likely to need to look up a SSN than I am? WTF. I'm still annoyed at that one. And have similar stories at other offices. Years ago I was hired at a Denny's to wait tables. I did my week of training, including working a busy shift with my trainer just watching from across the room and keeping the $100 in tips I made. Before training could be finished I had to pass a written test. I took the test, got 80% of the answers right, and was told I had to pass with a 90 or above, but I was told by the female, also gay, manager now that I had failed once I had to pass with 100%. I was told by 3 female servers that they were told they passed the test with lower scores than I had, and one never even had to take it. Everyone who worked there said the GM hated men and that's why she did that. I'm a really big guy, 6 feet 6 inches 270 pounds, with a scruffy beard. I work from home and generally have handled a lot of the kid time with our 2 kids. I have had the cops called on me twice, 2 separate incidents, at the playground while playing with my kids. Once because my 2-year-old son did not want to go home and take a nap, so I had to carry a tantruming toddler to the car and someone thought I was kidnapping him even though he was clearly yelling "No daddy, no," and having a tantrum. And another time because while playing with my kids on the cool giant playground in the park, I noticed that a little kid, like 18 to 24 months old, was about to fall off of the top of an 8-tall platform, and I ran over and caught the kid, but managed to bang the kid's arm on the side of the structure during the catch, and the kid's mother ran up from her perch on a bench 50 yards away screaming about how I assaulted her son. I also do all the grocery shopping and cooking for my family and used to take my kids to the store with me every week. As such, I've had countless women from teenagers up to old ladies mention how nice it is that I'm babysitting and giving mommy a break. That's kind of infuriating, but whatever. Despite having my kids with me, I've been accused of being a pedophile or kidnapper at least 3 times for trying to help a lost kid find their parents because people think that I must want to fuck any child not my own. Being a guy around kids is really fucked sometimes, man. I made a terrible mistake. I was a contributor to Google Maps for a few years before having kids, and it's something I really enjoyed. After having kids, I spend 90% of my free time with them and noticed that there weren't any good images of parks when I was looking for one age appropriate for a 2-year-old. Unwittingly I think cavernous discretion, what a great opportunity to get some views and maybe earn those socks I keep hearing about. I grab a few wide shots of the entire area and a photosphere in the middle of the few islands of playground, and they came out great. They were just what I was looking for to help ID parks for various age ranges. Naturally that concept collapsed as soon as the police arrived. Meanwhile there is some lady there with a telescopic lens taking all the pictures she wants, shaking her head disapprovingly while I try to explain that I'm here with my son. Hobby lost, parental embarrassment, poor first exposure to the police for my kid. From a parent's point of view I understand the optics. But if you really don't want me to have a picture of an entire playground structure that happens to have your kid in it, come talk to me. I'm not a terribly intimidating guy and I'd gladly delete it if you just talk to me. Calling the cops was a bit much considering how many cameras/smartphones there. I had a female manager falsely accuse me of assault and I had no way to defend myself. It was my word against hers. She changed her story 3 times, I proved innocence the first 2 times with emails and people who could overhear the conversation and vouch for me, and the third time it was something totally new. I touched her and physically intimidated her, that I couldn't disprove because she called for a closed-door meeting with me and her. She did it because she had not done any work in 6 months and needed to deflect responsibility for this. This, along with a few other things, gave me a lot of anxiety and depression. I cried recalling this experience to my mother, and she told me I was just afraid of strong women. Worked as a family portrait photographer briefly. My boss and coworkers, all female, basically treated me like I couldn't be left alone around children. It actually impacted my pay substantially. Every time I was up to photograph a family with a small child, which was most of the well-paying clientele, my boss would decide it was a good time to do a team shoot, that way she or one of my coworkers could help. She would always pass this off as them just wanting to play with the babies, but when it came time to sell packages and get commissions, I was always splitting my commissions with my female, chaperones. To make things worse, a lot of parents would come with the expectation that their photographer would be female. I understood in some cases. Like, maternity photos. Although, I should point out, I went to art school. I've done the nude figure drawing classes, I have taken anatomy, I was likely to be involved in the editing process anyway. So, while I understood, it was also completely insulting. Like, what other reason, other than me potentially being a creep, is there for me not to do the job I was hired to do? Besides that, sometimes there was just no other reason. 2 parents, 3 kids aged around 5 to 12, for some reason, they want a female photographer. I have a lot of experience with children, and used to babysit in high school and college. That was part of why I got hired. So, basically the whole time I worked there I had to gracefully dance around the fact that I was constantly being treated like I was either incompetent or dangerous, even though I was never either. Fortunately, I'm in an entirely different line of work now, although I do occasionally do family portrait stuff for friends and family. Edit. I should add that this experience ultimately led me away from the teaching career I had considered. I realized that working with children would always be an uphill battle against people's prejudices. I was at a summer camp with a bunch of other guys. The girls and the guys were in the same dorm, but both sides were closed off by a door that needed a keycard to enter to the other side. The boys were blamed for stealing an iPhone charger, which is literally not possible, on the girls' side. A guy got his mattress put on a wall, like off the frame and put up on the wall, and he was upset about it. We got held back from going to our designated sports time, of course only the guys not the girls, and all for nothing because it was the custodians cleaning after suspensions of bed bugs. Finally me and 4 other guys were brought into a room and accused of sexually assaulting, or harassing girls. I know for fact I did not sexually harass or assault anyone. That camp was a horrible 3-week experience. Thank you for listening, beautiful people. Subscribe to the channel for more Reddit extravaganza. Do you have any experiences with sexism? Share them down below. Have an absolutely wonderful day.